Good evening and welcome to the webinar, Sucking Up the Elements by yours truly, Pat Pine. Good evening to everybody, everywhere. We will be discussing many items on the evacuation system, so let's get started. I want to have a big thank you to Air Techniques for supporting this educational webinar and Viva Learning for all their technical support. Terrific. This 4-chair system could present significant hygiene and patient health issues if the chairside suction were slow or weak, which could permit backflow, which means the reversal of fluid flow from the suction tubing into the patient's mouth. There is a real danger of cross-infection. This is particularly problematical because on occasion, when the suction is not clearing the oral liquids quickly enough, patients tend to close their mouths, inadvertently creating a negative pressure and backflow. This can have an undesired effect of drawing foreign saliva into the patient's mouth. To handle 4 chairs, the practice needs a significant pump size to handle the chairs in their facility. They need an effective cleaner and routine maintenance. They're going in. Is this how everyone addresses when they're going to clean the evacuation line traps? I remember one of my first experiences as a dental assistant. The main trap was in the lab under the sink, and I was not cleaning it, the dentist was. And oh my goodness, the smell, the gagging I did. I often thought, why isn't this done on off hours? It's terrible. The smell, it was like a sewage plant. But it must have been that bad because it left a lasting impression in my head. But remember, the elements that get sucked up into the tubing, into the evacuation lines, are saliva, amalgam, pus, blood, and lots of blood. And so think of this tubing similar to the water line tubing. It's small in diameter. So when all these elements get sucked up with either the slow or the slow saliva ejector or the high-speed suction, where does it go? Many cases in dentistry it goes to the sewer. But let's talk about that. Think about it. It travels through those little hoses, the tubes through the trap, the amalgams through the amalgam separators, and separates out into another container. So the amalgam has been contaminated with blood, saliva, and whatever else is collected. Think about the blood. It does contact the inner walls. So inside the walls of the tubing, it'll harden while the vacuum's at rest or overnight. Or think about after the surgery that was done on Friday afternoon. So it's very important to maintain these evacuation lines. So we really don't make it a goal to view the inside of our evacuation lines, at least I don't. But if you see it here in this picture, it's not very open. And really, what do we know about our lines unless we dissect them? Non-maintained vacuum system can create havoc on production and scheduling. Ever have your evacuation pumps go down? Lots of production lost. Very frustrating. And how does the owner-doctor know that the lines are even being maintained? He assumes this maintenance is handled at the end of every day. Eliminating waste in the evacuation system impacts practice operation in a number of ways. The operatory should never be down, and then having frustrated staff wasting time trying to find that solution. So it is required and it's necessary in having a healthy vacuum system. Well, the good, the bad, the ugly. This tubing shows us that the biofilm, the hazardous waste that is sitting inside our tubing, just like a human artery, when will it burst? When is it going to back up? The blood, the tissue, the fluoride, the saliva builds up daily within those walls of that tubing and hardens at night when it's not in use. So the dynamics of the water flow through the tubing combined with the sticky prophy paste, the saliva, provides perfect conditions for biofilm to form and produce foul odors. So building up on the inner walls of the tubing, slowly blocking a healthy evacuation system. And take into consideration the calculus in this picture, the chunks of calculus that are then lodged inside the tubing. Okay, I know it's gross. Okay, we need to be protective when cleaning the traps or flushing the tubing. We need to have our utility gloves on, not clinical gloves. I know they may be clumsy, but that's because they're not fitting you. You need to purchase sized utility gloves for each team member. Use it for the traps, any chemicals you might handle, in sterilization for sure, any blood spills. It's an OSHA guideline. But PPE is required when using any chemicals. So utility gloves, not from a grocery store, but purchase the ones that fit your hands, a size 6, 6.5. They do have them out there. We need to be protective. That picture on the left of that hand is a chemical burn. We need to protect our eyes. It's recommended to use protective eyewear that has side shields. Chemicals splash. You want to be sure you read the safety data sheet. This sheet has valuable information on it. What are the health hazards? What PPE, which is personal protective equipment, is needed to handle the cleaning solution that you're going to be used for the evacuation system? Protect yourself to stay healthy. A gown and a mask is also required. You want to wear a long sleeve gown to protect your skin on your arms from any chemical and bacteria. The mask is to protect from splashes to the face or from any strong odors. Here's an MSDS sheet, which I grabbed from CleanStream. And dental practices should review the material safety data sheet, which is the same as an SDS sheet now. The MSDS is changed to SDS. For the line cleaner being considered, you need to review that to determine if the ingredients and the characteristics are what you need for your equipment. The top of this SDS sheet states that if there's any hazards to the eye or skin, or if you would ingest it, this is not edible, just by the way, it tells you what to do. But SDS sheets are available online, and they are more universal with the globally harmonized system that is now in place with OSHA. This has valuable information. It now has 16 sections of the SDS sheet for our safety. But always review with the team to determine health and safety in your facility. So here's a safety check. Of course, we don't digest any chemicals, so ingestion, I would hope nobody's doing that. But we have skin exposure, eyes, ingestion, toxic by inhalation. Is this a chemical solution needed and wanted in our facilities? If it's not healthy to use and not safe, do we really want to purchase it? And that's something in dentistry that we typically don't do. We don't check the SDS sheets prior to ordering or purchasing products. And I recommend it highly because you will learn a lot of information from those safety data sheets. They're very valuable. Job descriptions. Well, does one single person maintain the evacuation lines, or does everyone take care of their own operatory? What about the swing room or the extra chair for emergencies? The protocol needs to take place. We need to write it down as a standard operating procedure. What are we doing? Who's doing what? Needs to be written per OSHA guidelines also. So we want to be sure that every operatory is maintained so that there's no backup in the evacuation lines. Job description should include the PPE that is necessary and a standard operating procedure. Communication throughout the team is very valuable. Everyone needs to know the chemical being used, why it's being used, what are the benefits of this product. Standard operating procedures should be written on evacuation maintenance. When do we do the maintenance? How is it done? What product are we using? And what PPE are required? And that's personal protective equipment. We want it written out so nobody gets hurt and everybody is on the same page. This vacuum systems, we take them for granted. We go into work, we flip on the switch. What are we really doing? Do we know? But the evacuation system is a behind-the-scene equipment that is needed for any dental practice to work smoothly. If there's no electricity, there is no work. If there's no water, there is no work. If there's no suction, there is no work, which means our production will be lost. Maintaining this specialized equipment is very important. You will keep your system healthy by keeping standard operating procedures and keeping your practice running smoothly. You know what? Age does matter in this situation. Have you ever thought of what is in your evacuation lines? Have you ever cut one off and maybe cut it open and looked at it? Okay, I don't recommend it, but if you really want to see. So the slow speed lines, the slide ejector, I'm sure they're coated with debris, which is, as you know, biohazard. But has the tubing ever been replaced? We identified the debris that enters the dental evacuation systems. It's not pretty. All of this debris within the lines and the buildup, the liquid, is biohazard. So ask yourself, how old is the practice? Did you purchase it from someone else? And how old are those lines? Could they be replaced along with the pump? So how often should your vacuum lines be cleaned? So again, this looks like an artery to me, ready to cause a heart attack or blow at any time. Biofilm and bioburden build up in the evacuation lines of any dental unit progressively and will cause a blockage with little warning. This blockage can create havoc, stress, and frustration at any time in any dental office if the evacuation lines are not maintained. And this could seriously cripple your dental practice, loss of production, high cost finding an emergency technician. According to the United States Air Force guidelines for the infection control in dentistry, the high volume evacuator and low volume suction lines and traps are to be cleaned daily using an evacuation system cleaner according to manufacturer's instructions. So that would also mean use it according to the manufacturer's instructions of your unit. And if you have to dilute the cleaner, just dilute it the way it's instructed for you to dilute it, not add a little or a little less is more, because we need to do it the way the manufacturer tells us to. Changing the traps out daily is probably not indicated, but what is the office protocol for maintaining of the traps? Cleaning the lines daily is recommended, so that's using your daily cleaner, liquid cleaner. And the length of time that you decide to keep the trap will be based upon the amount of debris that the trap collects. So in other words, if the trap becomes clogged with debris sooner than a week, then it may need to be changed more frequently. And that kind of goes without saying because you won't get good suction. So I say don't do it. Many dental offices don't use filling material with mercury. Composite fillings have been found to kind of take their place. But many of the dentists will remove amalgam fillings. So you have this amalgam inside your trap. What are you going to do with it? Well, I recommend you place the trap in a baggie, and it's biohazardous waste, unless your dental board states differently. So at least the silver filling that is excess in your trap will go into the biohazardous waste. So why your lines can't suck? Well, because they're clogged. So when looking for a cleaner, you want to look for a cleaner that has a formula designed for daily cleaning. It penetrates and helps remove the line buildup. It increases vacuum performance and suction strength. It cleans and deodorizes the line for wet or dry vacuum systems. It's environmentally friendly and biodegradable. It's non-foaming. The pH needs to be close to neutral as possible. So these photos that you're seeing right now on this slide are showing that these tubes are clogged. They're very hazardous, and we might want to call this sludge, and it's very gross. So if you're considering a new evacuation cleaner, you're not sure if currently one that you're using is working, you might want to check with the dental manufacturer. So the questions that I've laid out here are critical when you're going to ask the dental manufacturer about your vacuum system and amalgam separator. On what line cleaning products do they recommend, or what is compatible with your equipment? Many disinfectants or line cleaner products possess oxidizing properties that have the potential to liberate mercury ions into the wastewater system from amalgam that has been captured in the separators, or may have a buildup in the vacuum lines or collection tanks. So we definitely want to know what we have. Do we have a wet ring pump? Do we have a dry vacuum system? And do you have an amalgam separator? And amalgam separators, many states are recommending that dental offices have them. So you need to check with your dental board if you need to have an amalgam separator on your system. So another characteristic to be aware of is the pH balance of the product you choose. Amalgam separators operation may be hindered with products that have an acidic or a low pH. High pH cleaners may cause premature wear on the material used in the amalgam separators. The closer the product is to neutral, which would be 7, a pH of 7, the better. When you're considering the pH, the line cleaning product should have the pH that does not invalidate the warranty of the vacuum pump or amalgam separator. So some vacuum pumps or amalgam separators require that the pH of line cleaners be in the neutral range, which would be between 6 and 10. Foam. Well, what's foam got to do with it? Looking for a non-foaming cleaner to prevent premature wear on the system. There's a lot of air in foam which tricks the system to think it's liquid. So it's not healthy for the system and it has premature wear on the motor. Oxidative properties. Well, many line cleaner products possess the oxidative properties to liberate the mercury ions into the solution from amalgam. Products that do not contain bleach or chlorine minimize the dissolution of amalgam. Therefore, only non-chlorinated line cleaning products can be used unless the trap has no chance of ever containing amalgam residue. Remember, many offices are removing the mercury-containing fillings, but many are not putting them in. Sodium hypochlorite. Well, we want to avoid the bleach or other chlorine-containing ingredients. The product should not contain any type of bleach, which is sodium hypochlorite, or other chlorine-based ingredients such as dichlorocyanate. Products with chlorine and other oxidizing ingredients tend to dissolve amalgam particles in the vacuum line. Then it releases the mercury into the sewer system. For this reason, many sewer agencies prohibit the use of oxidizing vacuum line cleaners. Remember, mercury fillings are not being placed, but if your office is placing and you're using a lot of mercury, you need to be sure of what the product you're using in your evacuation system. Amalgam separators. So don't use sodium hypochlorite. Amalgam separators are devices designed to remove the amalgam waste particles from dental office wastewater. Without an amalgam separator, the particles can be suctioned into the dental unit vacuum line and discharged into the public sewer system. Reducing amalgam waste discharge from the dental office stems from increasing pressure facing local wastewater treatment plants to reduce the concentration of mercury from their plants and minimizing the concentration of mercury in the sludge. As I said earlier, many states require amalgam separators, so you really need to check it out with your dental board. Unfortunately, the EPA does not have any standards for evacuation line cleaners as yet. That may be coming in the future. But please be prepared to do your homework on what product is best for your facility and your equipment. Don't buy the cheapest, because that's not always the best for your equipment. You want to be sure that you're using what the manufacturer recommends. So there was a study done on these 3 evacuation line cleaners. So we have PureVac from Sultan, we have VacuSol from Biotrol, and we have CleanStream from Monarch. So if we want to break down the essentials and what to look for a cleaner, you want to look for something that's non-foaming, because as I said earlier, foaming can wear the pump and wear it out prematurely. So the pH we want to look to as close to neutral as possible, between the pH of 6 and the pH of 10. We definitely want something that would have a fresh, keep the lines fresh and clean, so we want a fresh odor. We want to keep the costs down, but we don't want to buy something just because it's the cheapest thing on the market. And we definitely want to look at the health effects of the people that are using this line cleaner, and is it good for the environment? So we want it non-corrosive, and we want it biodegradable. So on this slide, you'll see that some of these can cause hazard to the eyes. Well, it's a chemical, so we want to consider that. But we definitely want to have the correct PPE on. So we want to use our safety data sheets before we purchase, and then we want to use our PPE on every product that we would use. So here's our PureVac, and it's an easily aspirated evacuation system cleaner. It creates a turbulent mixture of air and the solution to clean your evacuation system with ease. It's super concentrated and cleans your entire system, including the trap, and leaves it smelling lemon fresh. It holds enough solution to clean 3 operatories and 1 cuspidor. Do we still have cuspidors? Portable handle allows you to carry the solution from room to room. So then I grabbed some of the MSDS. I wasn't able to grab it all because it's such tiny letters. But here again, you want to look at the PPE, which would be in number 8 on the upper right. And I had stated earlier there are 16 sections of a safety data sheet today, and they're going more universal. So you'll be able to see that this states that you need eye and skin protection, safety glasses and gloves are recommended. An exhaust is required. Well, I don't know where we get an exhaust because I've never, unless it's in the lab. And then an exhaust system is required. A system for local and or general exhaust is recommended. So this is what you want to look at when you're purchasing a product. So let's go to Vacusol by Ultra, and it's by Biotrol. And this is a concentrated Vacusol vacuum line cleaner, and it breaks down and removes organic material and synthetic debris. It's including amalgam and fluoride gel, which we know how sticky that is. It increases the suction and reduces stress on your evacuation pump. It cleans and deodorizes with a biodegradable, non-toxic formula safe for daily use. It's non-acidic, non-corrosive, and non-foaming. It will not harm chrome, brass, aluminum, or rubber components. Now, a half an ounce makes 1 quart of solution, so it has a fresh lemon scent. So a 32-ounce unit dispenser bottle makes 64 applications. And the reason I'm letting you know this is because every product is different, and it will give you so many different types of dispensing. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the MSDS for the Vacusol Ultra. And now I grabbed the personal protection because that's what I was most interested in. And it says the goggles you need, or safety glasses, rubber or other protective chemical-resistant gloves. So can I say that again? Chemical-resistant gloves is not the clinical gloves that we use for patients. Clinical gloves have holes and microscopic holes in them. This is why we wash our hands before and after we use gloves, is because they have microscopic holes in them. Chemical-resistant gloves will not allow the chemical to be absorbed in your tissue. When you think of your hands, and you can all look at your hands, they're like a sponge, and they can absorb a chemical. Well, we don't know where cancer comes from, but we want our team protected. So you want to use the chemical-resistant gloves. Ventilation, normal room is good. Respiratory protection, not normally required. And clothing sufficient to avoid contact, which would be your regular PPE. So now we have Monarch Clean Stream. And Monarch cleans the dental vacuum systems and should be regularly cleaned to maintain peak performance and maximize system life by helping remove and prevent the buildup of waste and debris within the vacuum tubing and plumbing. Monarch Clean Stream is an easy and effective solution to keep your dental vacuum system running smoothly so you get the most out of your investment. Unique formulation is designed for daily cleaning, and so that's the other thing you have to look for. Do all of the cleaners require you to use it daily, or should you use it every other day? What are the instructions on that? This one is designed for daily cleaning, which is good because of all the elements that we know which is inside those tubings. We want this product to penetrate and help remove the line buildup, which would increase your vacuum performance and suction. It also cleans and deodorizes the evacuation lines for all the wet and dry vacuum systems. It is non-foaming, and high concentration formula is very economical to use. It has a 2.5 liter bottle, which yields 125 cleanings, which is about less than 50 cents per cleaning on your tubes. It's non-corrosive and completely biodegradable. Now, it also has a pH of 8.5. So we've stayed in that range that's recommended to a neutral pH. Now, the MSDS I'm not going to show because I showed it in the very beginning. And it also had PPE protection because it is a chemical, but nothing out of the ordinary. So the advantages are you want something ready to use, no color residue. You want it economical, which this is. It has a special formula. You can use all types of water quality, which I've never thought before as I ever used any cleaning product that there's a specific type of water quality. So this is anything, any water. So you can use it with a non-ferrous metal. It has no foam, and the cleaning results are even better than those tested with the competing products. So this is what they came up with after the study, that CleanStream has a lot of advantages over some of the other products. So in any dental practice, we need protocol. How do you know if your current product to clean your evacuation lines is working? And I had stated earlier, standard operating procedures is a requirement of OSHA guidelines, which it is. And these operating procedures are written to be sure all equipment is maintained and employees safe, because OSHA is for the safety of the employee. I have developed a manual for dental offices to make your life easier to maintain your equipment. If you're interested, email me at info@OSHAtrainingbootcamp.com, because it's a record-keeping workbook in essential forms, and it helps you, whoever's maintaining your equipment, stay on target. Our patients trust we are maintaining all of the behind-the-scenes equipment. So we do have different types of suction. Not knowing what type of suction you have at your facility, and you may know, is it a dry or is it a wet vacuum? So I can't tell you what's best for your practice, but you can get an assessment from any of the Air Techniques reps, and that's always available. But here's a little bit more information. Now, this is a wet system, and all VacStar components are precisely manufactured in-house for reliable performance and long-term efficacy. And it's oil-free, so there's no maintenance and disposal issues. There's a hydromizer, which reduces your water consumption up to 75%. So I never really thought about it, that how much water is going through the evacuation pumps in order to keep them maintained and running. But in some states or cities, you're paying a lot for your water. So this might be something you want to think about next time you're interested in replacing your vacuum system. So this system has a relief valve that ensures consistency and high suction levels. They have 4 models, that 1 out of the 4 has to match your practice size. And also for confined space installations, they have specially designed racks, when you have real small spaces. And I've been in some offices, because I do OSHA and infection control in their office, and I'm telling you, these pumps are in the tiniest little corner. I don't know how anybody can get at them to work on them. So this wet vac system saves money and water consumption by 75%, so that's pretty cool. So now we have the Mojave dry vacuum system, and that's just like the desert out here in Arizona, although we're looking for more rain. The dry system works for many dental offices because it doesn't require any water and very little maintenance, but they still need to maintain somewhat, at least on an annual basis. But the dry system uses a separation tank which stays rinsed and may be cleaned. And we'll see one in a little while. But it also has sensors and controls, so if there's a failure, you have a sensor that lets you know everything that's going on. So now we have a contest. Air Techniques has a contest. If they're looking for the oldest air compressor and vacuum system. So you need to get online to airtechniques.com and to win this new possibly win a new Air Techniques compressor or vacuum system. So that's up to you to do. So the operating information, what do you do when you come in for the day? Nobody, now I've been in dentistry a while, but nobody has ever told me to turn the water on before turning the power on. So you may want to put a sticky note up above your switches, water number 1 and then power number 2, and then it's reversed when leaving. So you want to be sure that you're turning on and off your system the way the manufacturer states. But I'm pretty sure that there are some facilities that it's not being done correctly, and you could wear out your motor if it's not done properly. So the vacuum system maintenance, the wet ring pump utilizes a water source in an impeller, which creates the vacuum in the lines. And this requires a lot of water, as I mentioned earlier. But most use of the water recycles that and reduces the water use by 50% or more. The sediment and minerals from city water can wear down impellers in the vacuum pump and cause premature failure. So whatever pump, air compressor, or water filter you have, wet or dry, this should be maintained yearly with your service department. So I just kind of gave you some general information because all systems are different, and it all depends on your manual. Keep your manual, keep it close to your equipment, and then that way if there's any other questions about it, you'll have all the information you need right there. So flushing the lines with a cleaner, you want to start at the furthest operatory from the vacuum with a non-foaming cleaner. So you want to turn off the power in the water supply. Then you want to unscrew, after you've done the cleaner, you're going to unscrew, and you'll see it in a minute. Let me flip to that picture. Nope, not there. It'll be at the next one. So you want to turn off the power in the water supply, unscrew the bowl, and then replace the entire bowl and screen and gasket and screw it back onto the unit securely. You need to be really secure, otherwise you're going to not have the suction that you're looking for. So a worn or missing gasket and or a failure to tightly screw the bowl into the solids collector body will cause poor suction due to an air leak, and you'll see that right here. This is what I was talking about. So sometimes, you know, you can get those threads on crooked and you won't get it on straight, and you'll have an air leak, and you won't be very happy because then you have to go back and touch this thing again. So you will get an air leak if it's not tightened. That's the first thing I would go for if you had an air leak or you weren't getting the suction that you were supposed to get. So let's talk about these saliva ejectors. This saliva ejector has a prevention of suck back because this little blue end is a valve, and the valve will not allow you or allow the patient's saliva to come back into their mouth or from the previous patient. So a backflow is always generated when the ejector is blocked or restricted. So the patient's mouth can be opened or closed. But the valve prevents the backflow. And I just want to be sure that everybody knows that this is a single use only. This does not go in cold sterile. It does not get reused. It's disposable. Single use means disposable. The same with the high suction tips. It will, you cannot reuse them. If you don't put it out if you don't know you're going to use them. The only ones that are reusable would be the metal ones that you can clean with the little, like a baby bottle brush, those little brushes. but not with the saliva ejector. Those are disposable. You cannot put them in cold sterile. In fact, cold sterile is no longer because it's a health hazard. So if you're interested in learning about cold sterile and what not to do, you can check out my webinar on YouTube, which is 5 serious sterilization violations. It could happen to you, and that's true with all the information we have from the Oklahoma dentist. And if you haven't heard, Google the Oklahoma dentist, and he has put 7,000 people at risk because of his sterilization procedures or the lack thereof. So it's very important to be doing things right. If you're not sure, I'm happy to come in, but you really need to make sure that you have best practices and you're using best practices. So SafeFlow stops the contamination fluid from going into a patient's mouth. The CDC had a transmission of hepatitis B from patient to patient in August of 2007. The saliva ejector could have been the culprit. I'm sorry, but that's a little gross. You want to prevent the backflow with your patients, so large amount of waters can cause a backflow also. So you might want to go onto this website, safeflow.com. There's a little video showing you that this little blue valve that there will be no black backflow into the patient's mouth. Now you can purchase these valves by themselves if you have a plethora of saliva ejectors stored. Otherwise, you can buy them together, whatever you see is fit for your practice. But do not have your patient close when they're having their work done. Put a sign up, do whatever you have to do, put a sign up over the light, but don't let them close down. So here are some questions to ask yourself. Is this product compatible with your current system? Is it compatible with the delivery unit? Is it compatible with the amalgam separator system? Is it compliant with local wastewater policies? So you want to think about all of those. Now here's a system that has a lot of sludge. It's pretty dirty. And how are you going to clean that out? You would not do it by hand. Here is the separator I talked about earlier. And the separator has this, it looks like a balloon inside, and it separates the debris in the product. So it keeps the suctioning working. Now here's a dirty separator. And it does the same thing, but it separates what needs to come out. And here's a separator that has not been maintained. And so we have a lot of debris. And so think about this as a big mix master. I think of when I make my chocolate chip cookies, and I have a big mix master. And, okay, I eat the cookie dough, but not here. And so we definitely want to maintain our equipment so that our suction lines are always healthy. So how do we incorporate this into daily maintenance or daily practice? Should your practice not have a protocol for evacuation lines, this would be a great way to get one started. Creating a chart for each operatory would work also. But on the top of the chart, you should have a list of PPE required. The utility gloves, not clinical gloves. Read the manufacturer's directions on whatever product you choose that is best for your practice. And do you have an amalgam separator? And does your state require one? As I stated earlier, hands absorb like a sponge. Your doctor is ultimately responsible for the team's safety. So buy the utility gloves. So we want to go ahead and set a goal. We want to create the protocol. You can do this as a team. You want to pull out the manufacturer directions, and what else? The MSDS or the SDS sheet to help you create this protocol. You want to write the protocol. You want to reach your goal for daily maintenance, and now it's routine to have healthy lines. It does take a team. In any great dental office, it takes a team that is trained annually to provide great quality for your patients. It starts with all of the behind-the-scenes maintenance of equipment. It's the evacuation lines, it's the sterilizer, it's the hydrum, it's the ultrasonic. Those are all behind-the-scenes equipment. Does your entire team have OSHA infection control training annually? OSHA requires training annually. Infection control is usually required for any professional license. Things are changing in dentistry, and technology is the way things are going. So are we ready for a change? Here again, at your next team meeting, talk about your evacuation lines, plan to evaluate them. What are the age of your lines? Cleaning protocol. And do we need a new vacuum pump? OSHA Boot Camp by yours truly created the manual to keep all your equipment maintained. Contact me for more information. And so I I come into offices and I do a mock inspection, and I make sure that you're doing everything to the best practices according to the CDC and OSHA guidelines. And we will have time for questions, and I will answer them. If we do not get to some of them, I will make sure that they get answered via your email. So I want to say thank you for joining us, but don't forget, in order to get your CE, you need to fill out your evaluation and wait for the 5 questions. Answer the 5 questions in order to get your CE. Thank you. You are awesome.